So to start off this new pastoral year, we're starting with a new preaching series called At Your Service. And the subtitle there is The Power of a Serving Culture. So this is a 4-week preaching series that will culminate on October 15. And we will call that October 15 the Next Step Sunday instead of Ministry Fair. And I will explain to you why we're branding it as Next Step Sunday instead of Ministry Fair. To start this homily, I would just like to ask, how many of you here like watching team sports? Like team sports, like soccer, baseball, hockey, basketball. And I love watching team sports more than like individual sports like boxing. Because as you know, in individual sports, like you could just be the best of yourself, and you could win competitions, right? And it's easier compared to a team sports. In team sports, yes, you need to be the best of yourself, but you're also playing with your teammates, right? And it's harder. It's harder to play as a team. And of course, you use whatever gifts or talents that you have. Okay? And I'm not familiar with other sports. I'm more familiar with basketball. You know, some players are good in rebounding, dribbling, passing, scoring. Some are good in defense, right? So they need to know what they are good at and play their role in the team. Okay? And then the crucial thing is setting aside ego and willing to make sacrifice for the team, right? So that the team will be able to play well together in order to reach the goal of winning the championship. And of course, there's great joy, right? There's great joy of winning the championship. And there's a difference also between watching a team sports and playing the team sports, right? There's a big difference. When you're just watching, you're just there to entertain yourself. And you want your team to win so that you will feel good. And if your team loses, you feel bad, but you move on with your life. But if you're playing within the team, there's more at stake there, right? As I've said, the joy of winning and, you know, the pain of losing, right? You could also lose your job if the team continues to not play well and you yourself not playing well. So there's more at stake there. That's why for those who are playing in the team, they're more focused and they're more invested in playing. Very different from somebody who is just watching as a spectator. And in our gospel today, we see there the importance of being involved and not just being a spectator. The landowner went out to hire laborers, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock, right? And then he asked them, why are you standing here idle? Okay? Why are you here just a spectator? And then the people will say, well, because no one has hired us. Then this landowner says, well, you go to the vineyard and work there. Okay? And so there was an opportunity for this landowner to hire these laborers to work for the vineyard and not be idle. And Jesus used this parable because, as you know, this time of 9, 12, 3, 5 p.m. is the season of our life. No matter where we are in the season of our life, Jesus is calling us to work for His vineyard. And there's an urgency to that. As Jesus was ministering to the people, He said in Matthew chapter 9, verse 36 to 38, when He saw the crowds, He had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then He said to His disciples, The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest, into his vineyard. But people will interpret this that, oh, we pray so that others will work for the vineyard. We don't see that the Lord is calling us to work for the vineyard, right? And here at St. Mary's, we're giving everyone an opportunity not to be idle and work for the vineyard. Okay? Last year, we promoted St. Mary's game plan. And for those who are new here or who have not heard of the St. Mary's game plan, I'll just do a quick review. Okay? So this is based from a baseball analogy. At the center of this baseball analogy is worship. We give so much importance on the Sunday experience because this is where we worship the Lord as a family, as a community, right? And this is the greatest act of worship that we could give to God as we attend our Sunday Mass, okay? And in the baseball analogy, it says there, the importance of knowing Christ after an initial encounter. And being in a community, which is the first base, okay? And then from being a community is where parishioners will be able to learn how to grow Christ, okay? To be able to grow as a disciple within the context of a community. And as we grow as a disciple of Jesus Christ, we're called to serve Christ in ministries. And then from there, that's the third base, and then from the third base going to the home base is that the faith that we receive, we can't keep that to ourselves. We need to share Christ to others. That's why we're called to evangelize. Okay? And we see this. So again, the goal here is not just to serve one another, but the goal is for us to serve one another in order to do the mission well. Okay? And a good example of that is in the Chosen series. We see St. Mary's game plan in the Chosen series. How many of you have seen the Chosen series? Okay, I'm glad. Okay? In the Chosen series, Jesus always initiates an encounter with people, right? People would encounter Jesus, and there would always be an invitation. Come, follow me. And as they follow Jesus, they are in a community, right? In a small Christian community, okay? And as they're in the small Christian community, Jesus is teaching them how to become a disciple. And a disciple is to grow and become more like Christ. That's really about discipleship, to become more and more like Christ. Okay? And of course, as they're growing to become more like Christ, they were called to serve. Right? That's why some of them, like the women, they're preparing food, right? Some of the disciples, they were handling the crowds. One is in charge of the money. People are interceding for them, or people giving money for them. They have their own roles to play, so that Jesus and the apostles and the disciples will be able to do the mission well, right? And when the apostles or the disciples are ready, they were sent out 2 by 2 to proclaim the gospel and also demonstrate it with signs and wonders, healing, right? Deliverance. So we see here St. Mary's game plan. So that's why St. Mary's game plan, it's not unique. It's from the very start. Jesus and the disciples, they weren't doing that. And if they're doing that, we're called to do that as well. Okay? Romans chapter 12, verse 4 to 8, it says, "For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function. So in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts, according to the grace given to each of us. Okay, so I'll enumerate different gifts. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. Okay? If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, to do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Okay? That's why I'm encouraging every one of us to get to know, where are you in the game plan? Are you in the game plan? That's the first question. Are you in the game plan? Or are you just a spectator, just standing idle there? Okay? And the second thing is, you need to do is to pray to God. What is your next step? That's why on October 15, we're not calling it Ministry Fair. Because ministry has to do with people using their gifts to serve. We're calling it Next Step Sunday because maybe some of us here are new and you haven't encountered the Lord and you're not being asked to serve for now. You're here to encounter the Lord in a very personal way. Okay? And there are many opportunities for you to encounter the Lord. That's why we're providing here Alpha, which will be starting tomorrow. Okay? We have the New Life Retreat that will start in October. It is for you to encounter the Lord, how good it is, He is, how He loves you. And hopefully after encountering the Lord and wanting to know Him, it will encourage you to be part of a community. Okay? And from being in a community, grow as a disciple. We can't grow as a disciple if we're a Lone Ranger Christian. Why? Because we think we're the most perfect people when we're by ourselves. Right? But when we're starting to be in a community, we have our blind spots. People will make us aware of what we need to work on. That's why it's very important that we grow as a disciple in the context of a community. And here at St. Mary's, we're so blessed. We have a very vibrant, small Christian community. I really encourage you, get to know how that works. Okay? So pray to God, what is your next step? Okay? And then maybe you're being called right now to serve, right? You're growing as a disciple. You're being called to serve now. What are your gifts? Use your gifts. Okay? And maybe there's a desire in your heart right now to share the faith, to share Christ to others. But maybe you don't know how. St. Mary's, we will equip you on how to do that. Okay? So, in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10, it says, as each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Okay? Again, as I've said, the goal is not just to serve one another. The goal is for us to serve one another so that we will be able to do the mission well. Okay? And that's what here the important thing here is for us to do the mission. And I'll give you the reason why. St. John Paul II said in Redemptoris Missio 86, he said, for each believer, as for the entire church, the missionary task must remain foremost, for it concerns the eternal destiny of humanity. Okay? It seems so broad, right? It seems so broad, humanity. Let's scale it down. For it concerns the eternal destiny of your loved ones, your friends, your co-workers, the people that you meet every day in your life. Their eternal destiny is at stake. That's why we need to do the mission that Jesus called us to do. And here at St. Mary's, we're trying to be a cohesive team. Okay? Everyone, no one is idle. Everyone is trying to be involved, to use their particular gifts, okay? To be able to serve one another so that we will be able to do the mission well. And I hope more and more parishioners of St. Mary's would sign up, okay? To be laborers in God's vineyards so that we collectively will have a bountiful harvest of souls for the Lord.